So we're going to begin today where we left off yesterday. So if you want to pick up where we left off, download from Learning Suite that agent 16B file. And as long as you have any file that's got the agent in it, that'll be okay. We're not going to really depend on what we did yesterday, but I'm just going to build the example in the same location. So our goal today in this class, yesterday what we did was we said, well, how do we manipulate elements of the HTML page? How do we find that text box and put a username in it? How do we put a password in it and then submit that form or click on that button? And today what we want to do is we want to say, well, let's get that page and look through and extract the data off of it. So, we got a peek at that yesterday by saying the import page method that would just say, if I got the page, use the web query tool of Excel and just bring it in. But if we've got to do something a little more sophisticated, we're going to have to work with the raw HTML, and that's where we're headed today. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to pull information off of some site that has information on multiple pages. And one that came to mind was Eventbrite. Have you used Eventbrite? Anyone here used Eventbrite before? It's really pretty good, So they basically provide ticket selling services for any event. So, you want to hold a class at your house about how to change, how to rebuild a carburetor or something. You're going to charge $10 a seat for it. You could make a class on Eventbrite, and they would sell those tickets for you. They would advertise it for you. People would come to Eventbrite. I wonder what's going on in Provo this weekend. Oh, there's a carburetor rebuilding class. I'm going to go. It's only $10. They'll sell you the ticket. They'll send you the money, and they'll take like 27%. So they're keeping a pretty good chunk of your revenue, but they're doing a lot for it. Being able to manage this, signing up for the class, and you can set, limits and a waiting list and everything. So. But the thing that's interesting here, at least for us, is that we could say, I want to search for a set of data on this page. So maybe we want to look for food events in the Provo area. So I'll just come here to Eventbrite, do a search, and there's lots of them. These are all deal with food somehow. So they're actually tagged as being food. The person who created this said, oh yeah, there's a category, it's category food. But maybe I want to narrow it down. I don't want all event types. I only want classes. I want to take classes about food. So for event type, I'm going to change this down to class. And that's going to give me a smaller set to work with. There's only 41 different events here that meet these criteria. And so what I'd like to do is say, all right, that's the search I want to do. And I want to kind of pull all this information off of here, and I want to bring it into Excel. I want to make a table that says, all right, this event is happening at this date and this time. Here's the name of it, and here's the link to the detail page of that event. I want to extract that off. I could probably pull most of that data in using the web query tool, but it would really be a mess and difficult to get to. And you're going to see that our code's going to be pretty clean to pull this off of the HTML page. But what I can't get from the web query wizard is the link. So you can see when I hover over that link, it's giving me a URL here. And if I click on that, it's going to take me to that page where I can get more information. And it may be that I want some of the information that's on that detailed page that's not presented here in the index. Well, I can have my agent go to that page and get the information there as well. So this I can't get with the web query wizard because it's not visible on the page. So that might be another reason that we need to work with this in a way that's not available to us with the web query wizard. All right, so before, and it's always a pretty good idea, instead of starting on the first page when you're kind of snooping around to figure out how you're going to attack the problem, go to the second page. Because quite often, the first page won't say anything about letting you control which page you're on, but the second page will. And we can see that they actually build in to subsequent page requests, they build in another parameter here called page 2. Typically, I could change that to page 1, and it'll take me back to page 1. Let's see if it does here. Yeah. So let's take me right back to page 1. So if I don't specify a page, it assumes page 1, but I can specify page 1. It'll start me at the beginning. So I can use that part of the URL to figure out how many times I'm going to have to navigate to get me to a different page on their site. And we can see that it looks like they've built 3 things in here. They've built in the state, the city, 4 things. the type, I'm only looking at classes, and then the tag I'm looking for is food. And so I could pretty easily parameterize this URL so that, if I'm not sure exactly why I would be doing it, but let's say I've got to keep track of events in 14 different cities. I got to keep track of events in Provo, and I got to keep track of events in Dallas, and I got to keep track of events in Pittsburgh, California. Did you know there's a Pittsburgh in California? I guess it's in the Bay Area somewhere. They got events there too. So I got some set of cities I got to keep track of, and I don't want to have to go look at them all the time. I want to be able to just tell Excel, go look at those, and let me just see the summary set to look at it, follow the links of the ones that I want to do. So that's where we're headed today. Questions? Okay, so as I'm looking at this, it pays off a little bit to kind of look at this URL and see what can we understand of this. CRT equals regular. I have no idea what that means. But I'm curious, so you can see this named parameter and this value in the URL. I'm curious to know what happens if I get rid of it. Maybe I don't need it. I just want to see, it kind of seems kind of devious. You think that URL must be somehow sacred. What happens if I modify that and see what happens? So I'm just going to, so what do I have here? I've got 41 events. I'm looking at page 1, or 1 through 12 of 41 events. Now what's going to happen if I just delete that first parameter, everything from the question mark, which is where the parameters start, up to and including the ampersand, which separates the next parameter set, and I'll hit enter. Does it bring back the same number of events? Yeah, I'm still at 41 events. So I'm not sure what that CRT equals normal or whatever that said was, but sounds like it's the default. So maybe I don't need it. That'll make my life a little simpler. What's this slat and slung? Yeah, this is like the latitude and the longitude. My guess is I don't really need that because it says Provo, Utah right here. So let me get rid of slat and slong. Oh, and here's sort too. I don't care what order it's sorted in. They got to come in some order, so I'll get rid of that. What else is over here? View equals list. Those are probably all defaults. I'm going to delete them all. Do I still have 41? I still got 41. I've just really simplified the URL that I have to work with, and I'm still getting the same stuff. I could have left all that stuff in there, but this is just going to make the example a little bit simpler as we look at it. So all I'm specifying now in my URL, city and state, the fact that I'm talking about classes, what tags I'm dealing with in those classes, and then which page I want to look at. So I'm going to bring that, and that'll be the first piece of information I need. So I think I'm ready to, I'm ready to at least get started working with this page to extract the data off. So I'm back to my agent here, and I'm going to come into my code. Let's see. Let me bring in my view. What's it called? Project Explorer. So you remember that this code is going to depend on having the agent class available. And so someone would be full credit for class participation if you kind of give me the high-level view of what the agent class allows me to do. I don't know, what is it and what does it help me do? Yeah, go ahead. So it's a definition of an object. It's defined right here in this class. So it's defined in VBA. It's a definition of an object. Go. It has methods and properties that allow me to they interact with a web server. I can fill in stuff. There's lots of different stuff. So it looked like something just crashed. Did it come back to life? Last saved by user? Good thing I hadn't made many changes yet. Okay, good. So that's it. It came back. We probably should save this. Be great if someone would remind me to save after I accomplish something great so that next time it crashes, we'll be okay. All right, so let's go ahead and create a new sub procedure here. So sub, we'll call it get event data. Just like we did yesterday, we're going to need to declare an agent, a variable, and create that agent. So dim a as agent, this just gives me a variable that will refer to an agent class. Set a equal to new agent. This is going to create a copy of that object in variable, in memory, and allow the variable to get bound to it. So I've got the name for it. All right. So now let's go ahead and get it to where we can see that. A.visible equals true. That will let me see the Internet Explorer object. And then a.openPage, and let's go ahead and open it up to that URL. https://eventbrite.com/ I have no idea what the D stands for. It stands for something, I guess. Utah Provo food classes. We're looking at page 1. I'm going to go ahead and put a breakpoint on my end sub, and I'm going to run the code to there. And that should bring up Internet Explorer. Interesting. And it shouldn't give me an error. I wasn't expecting the error. Let me end that. Open page, and I've got to tell it to use Internet Explorer. Remember, there are 2 channels to interact with servers. The non-visual channel and the visual channel. In this class, we're seeing how to use the visual channel. And so I've got to tell it the next parameter, use Internet Explorer as true. So I'm going to close Internet Explorer and run that code again. That looks a little better. And we're getting to Eventbrite. And we should be getting to, yeah, there's Provo food events. And it's got the data that I'm after. Okay, so I've gotten now to the page. I've gotten my agent open. It's got me to the page. And now I'm ready to start going through this to see what does it take. Turns out it's going to be a little frightening as we get going because we've got to look at the raw HTML to work with this, and it's not going to be pretty. So, I'm glad you're all seated. Let's go ahead and move forward. So if I'm going to take a look at the source of this, remember that to look at the source, I've got 2 kind of different versions of the source. I got one source code that the web server sent to the browser. And then the browser is going to look at that and say, yeah, I'm going to make some modifications to it. And one of the things that Internet Explorer does, that I don't know if other browsers do this or not, it goes through and it parses that whole HTML page, and it says, I want to organize this the way I want to see it organized. It's going to capitalize tags the same way. It's going to put quotes around parameters. It should have quotes. It might change the order of parameters. It's really going to be quite a bit different than that page that got sent from the server that you're actually working with. And so how do I actually get to see the whole page of that, whatever is the page that's currently rendered? And the answer is a.showSource. I execute a.showSource, and I'm just going to do it in the immediate window because I just need to see it once to work with it. That should be enough. And that will bring up that page. It'll make a local copy of what's currently shown in the agent, and it will open it with the default browser. And it looks like it's struggling with the map request from Google. I wonder if I can just stop it. I don't really want to stop. But I don't really need to look at it this way. I need to get to the source. So let me press Control-U and see if that'll bring the source up. No. This page says, unable to display Google Maps. That's okay. I don't need the map. That's all right. Cut it out. So I can right-click and view source, or I can press Control-U and view the source. And hopefully that will show me the source of the page. And so the idea is now I'm going to be looking at this page in Internet Explorer because this is the visual representation of what I actually have access to with the agent. And then I'm going to look at the source by looking at what was generated by that show source statement. So it looks like it's supposed to be a capital E for Eventbrite, apparently. It's just a comment. Well, hi there. They put a little comment to us. Hi there, you like what you see? There's plenty more where this came from. Join our team. They're trying to hire you. They figure, look, if you looked at the source, they want to hire you. They have a pretty low threshold, I guess, to come work for Eventbrite. Okay. So at this point now, I've got the page open to here, and this is the source then that I have access to. It's really pretty frightening. I mean, look at this. They got a whole block here that's just encrypted data. I don't know what this is or what they're doing with it. It's a bunch of stuff that we don't need. And then we kind of get past it and we say, okay, here's some stuff that looks a little more like HTML we're expecting to see. So if I'm going to try to get a handle on this page, I'm trying to pull the information off of each one of these little cards that they have here. So what's a good idea to try to find in this page to find out, information about this particular item? Any thoughts? What could I search for? How should I get to the right part of the HTML source, at least get me in the neighborhood of what I'm looking for? Any thoughts? Yeah. Yeah, I can look for the title, because chances are this is only going to show once or maybe 2 or 3 times on the page, not a whole lot of times. And eat better for less. Hey, I like it. Food Sense, Snap Ed. No idea what Snap Ed is, but it's a free class, eating better for less. It's on March 15th. I think that's a Saturday. I could probably go to that. I don't know if that's a Saturday. Ooh, it's the Ides of March. Be careful what you eat on the Ides of March. Okay, so good idea. I hope I didn't just click on that. Oh, I clicked on it. Go back. Eat better for less. Maybe I'll just type it in. Search, eat better for less. Huh. It shows 8 times. Oh, but here's one that looks like this is on an image, and it's the alt tag. The alt tag is like what it shows. It's the alternate thing for the image. If you can't show the image, show this instead. So if the browser can't pull that image, it's supposed to show that. I think most browsers will actually show that if you hover over the image. So a respectable browser might do that. I wonder if Chrome does it. No, maybe not. Maybe alt is only used if you can't show the picture. There's some text you can put in place. So that's the first thing I'm seeing here, is I'm seeing the title is right here in this image. Well, let's see where the next location of it is. Here's the second one. Oh, there's this thing called card title. And then we can see there's so this is really pretty clean looking HTML. So this is a level 4 heading. They even give us a class that says it's the card title. That's very nice. And then we get the title of the page showing here. Now it turns out, it looks like I want some information that comes before this. I'm not sure I want to start looking for that as the first place to look, because I've got the time that shows up right here. So I want the title, I want the time, I want the link. I think those are the 3 pieces, the date and time, so the 4 things that I'm after. So as I look around here, I'm just trying to figure, what should we be looking for? And maybe I will use this title. Maybe I'll say, this is where I want to go. Let's just take a look and see how many times that shows up. Maybe I'll take this whole block here, H4, whatever. Oh, that's really nice. Look, it finds this 12 times. And if you remember, this page told me that it was showing 1 through 12 of 41. So this is showing 12 entries. And if I look at this source, it shows this 12 times. And so it looks like this is a unique tag that identifies just before where each title is. Now, folks, it turns out that the guys at Eventbrite, they don't have a bunch of people hired over there typing out these HTML pages. They're not making these pages. These are dynamically created pages. They're putting data into a database. They've got a program that says, read the data out of the database, take this format, this template that we have set up to show this data, put them together, send the page. And so the template is going to get used over and over and over again for the data. So typically, I can rely on that data, the data surrounding the data that I'm after, being very consistent. And I'm going to rely on that to be able to work across this and pull all the data that I'm after. And so I can see that this collection of characters appears 12 times. That's great news. Where is the URL that goes to the link? Here it is right here. So it looks like, even though this is getting me to the 12 different pages, I'm going to have to move backwards to get to this href. That's okay. Let's work with this first and see if we can just set up a loop that's going to take me to the 12 different locations in this page to pull the data. And let's come back to our code and see what it takes. You'll remember that, and we talked about this briefly yesterday, but the idea is when I want to parse this HTML, it's kind of like working with a text editor. I've got 2 things at my disposal. One, I've got a current position indicator, something that shows me where I currently am in the file. And then 2, I have the ability to find the next text from that position. And so since I want to find all 12 of these, I want to start at the very first position of the document. Here's how I do it. A.position equals 1. So I am saying start at the very beginning of the HTML. And now I am going to say a dot move to, and I want to move to that string that's getting me to the beginning of that card, that title item. Now I got a problem here. Why is it red? Whew. Full credit for class participation. If you can tell me why it's red, show me the way. In the back. Yeah, there's quotation marks inside of the quotation marks. Quote says, great, we're starting a string. Here's all these characters, part of the string. It gets to this quote and it says, hey, great, end of the string. And then it sees that list card and it goes, list minus card, minus I get, it's going, that's subtraction. But what's list? Is it a variable? No, not a variable. Is it a method? No. Is it some function? No. Is it something else? No. Because I have no idea what that is. And so if I want to put quotes inside of quotes, it takes a little doing. How do I do it? Anyone know? So one thought is, hey, just put a backslash in front of it, and if I was in another language, that would work really well. But it doesn't work in VBA. Not the approach. It turns out in VBA, when I want to put a quote inside of a quoted string, I put two quotes. Seems weird to me. One breaks it, but two fixes it. And so what happens is, the interpreter is coming along and sees that quote and goes, great, here's a string, pop, 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 string, in the string, in the string, in the string, in the string. And it gets to this quote right here, and it goes, aha, end of the string, maybe. And it checks the very next character, and it says, is the next character a quote too? Aha, the next character is a quote. It's not really the end of the string. It's just a quote in the string. And it goes, one quote. Character in the string, character in the string, character in the string, character in the string, character in the string. Well, number quote, character in the string, character in the string, character in the string. So if I double up all those quotes, then there will actually really just be single quotes inside of the quote terminated string. Let me just print that out so you can see it. So these quotes on the outside are saying what's the string, saying that it's a string literal, and then all these double quotes on the inside are just going to be read as regular old single double quotes. And so you can see when I print that, the beginning and ending quotes don't print because that's the part that says it's a string, and then it's parsed those double quotes on the inside to be single quotes. See it? Kind of annoying. That's the way we do it. All right. So let's see what happens. I'm going to run this. A.position equals 1. So if I come up here and ask what the position is, it'll tell me it's 1. I'm now asking for that property of my agent A. It's property number 1. I mean, it's at position number 1. So now I'm going to execute this move to, and if it works, it should advance the position. That's why it's called move to instead of find. It's going to actually move the current position indicator to that location. Let's see where it did it. It moved it to 39,000 characters into the file. That's a long way into the file. And it found it so fast, didn't it? I mean, it was just blip, and there it was. And so move to, updates the current position indicator. Now, it turns out that the next move to is going to search from the position of the current position indicator. So if I do another move to, I'll just execute that line again and ask what the position is. It's a little bit further in because it's moved to the next location. In fact, when I say move to that string, it's going to move my current position indicator right to here, right there. It moves to the end of what it looked for the purpose of being able to do a subsequent move to. I want to move to the next occurrence of it, and I don't want to find the one I just found, and so it will start there and find the next one. Yep?
My thing says error object required.
Error object required? If only we had a TA who could help you. TA to the rescue. You're getting that same thing? You're doing that up here? You're getting it up here? Okay, so remember that to be able to refer to that object, it has to be loaded into memory. And so what I've done is I've put a breakpoint right here on the last line of my subprocedure, and I have executed this code. So it's loaded, it's made the agent, put it into memory, bound A onto that agent, set the, told it to go off to a particular location on the internet, and I'm working with it here. So if you're getting, object not defined or something, it's probably because that object's not defined. I mean, it's here in the code, but it's not been loaded into memory. And to be able to execute that, it's got to be in memory. So did that do it? Same problem?
Yeah.
I thought I had such a great answer. All right. How many of you, or is there anyone who's getting it to work? Like a couple of students are getting it to work, and others, object not found. So, yeah, there's not that much to it yet. So maybe let's take a pause and take a look. So, move to is going to do two things for us. Number one, it's actually going to move the current position indicator, but it's going to also tell me if it found it or not. And so I can do, and that's what we did with it yesterday, was we asked, could we find this string in there? And we just used that to find if we were on the right page or not, tell us if we were on the right page or not. But now what we're going to do is we're going to use it to control a loop. Do while a.move to, and because we're doing something with the return value, we've got to put quotes around the argument list. Loop. So this loop now is going to say, hey, try to find this location, and if it can find it, it returns true, and so it will drop here into the loop. It will have updated the position and return true. It comes into the loop, does whatever we say in the loop, and then it will go back to the top, and then it will try it again. If it finds it, it comes into the loop. And so as long as it can move to the next instance of that collection of characters, that's going to control this loop. It's really kind of a slick loop. So let me just do a debug.print of my position inside the loop. D-E-B-U-G, D-E-B-U-G, dot print a dot position. Okay, so I'm just going to drag my current position indicator back up here to set it to 1. And now I'm going to just step through this. Using Shift F8, let's see what we got printing. I'm going to clear this off and try it again. All right. So Shift F8 will keep me from actually going down into the move to procedure. If I just do F8, it'll actually go try to step through the move to procedure, but Shift F8 will take me down through. So there it prints 391,000, 395,000, 399,000, 403,000. So it's moving me through the document. It's taking me to the next position each time. Then eventually, once I've done all 12 of those, it should, let me out. And I went a little bit too far, so it finished off the procedure. And you'll notice that when it finishes, it cleans up after itself, and it actually closed that browser. So when I run it again, it won't open another copy of the browser. So I can run this. It should bring that browser up, run through, and print off all those 12 locations again. Okay, so it's a little bit complicated. We got to look at that string, find that text, and move to it. So let's take us now to the first position in here and think about what our next step is. All right, so here I am. My position is right here, 391,000 characters in. I'm going to save in case we crash. I'm sitting right here. Now, what I need to collect is I need to collect this URL. It looks like if I just move backwards from here, where should I move to? I need something that's going to get me what I'm looking for here. Looks like it's the next occurrence of href. Would get me, if I moved backwards to href, that should get me where I'm headed. So let's see if it does the trick. So once I get to here, let me move backwards. A dot move back to href equals quote quote. So if I execute that line and then show my position, it says, yeah, it's moved backwards. So I've now moved myself backwards to where it says href, the next occurrence of where it says href. And this is the first thing I'm trying to get. I'm trying to get this link. Now, when I say move to, it's going to put my current position indicator at the end of what I moved to. Move back to does the same thing. When I move back to it, it's going to put my current position indicator at the end of what I moved to. Seems like it should put it at the beginning if I'm moving backwards. But what I found is that I almost always want to move forward multiple times, but move backwards only once. And so it defaults to that. If I wanted to move backwards again to the next href, I'd have to adjust the position by hand, say position equals position minus 4 or something, so that it wouldn't find it, right there. Start here, and then it would look backwards to find the next one. But now I'm going to be sitting right here with my position. I just want to bring in all the text and tell what? How can I tell when I found the end of this URL? There's another quote. So that's what I want to do. So I'm going to make myself a variable. I'll call it link as a string. I've moved back to this position. I'm now going to say link equals a dot get text. And then I will tell it what I want it to move to. It looks weird. It's 4 quotes in a row, right? Opening quote to start my string. Put a quote inside the string, that's a quote with another quote, and then a close quote to end the string. Quote, 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 quote is how you say quote. Alternatively, the other way to do it is to do it by its ASCII, value, right? Character number 65 is capital A. So I can just say print character 65, it's capital A. Character number 34 is a quote. So the other way to get to quote is just to say I'm talking about character number 34. So instead of quote, 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 I could just put in here character 34. Which way do you like better, incidentally? How many of you say quote, 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 quote is better? And how many of you say I like char 34 better? That's you, you're voting, or you have a question?
No, you could do a constant.
Oh yeah, here's another approach. Here's what he's saying. Listen, you could do this. Up here you could say make a constant. Const, we'll call it qt, or quote, Q-U-O-T-E, equals quote, 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 quote. Now that's going to get me to a single quote character, and then I should be able to put, now another way of saying quote is Q-U-O-T-E. And that prints the quote. All right, so that's a third choice. How many of you like that better? Q-U-O-T-E. A few of you like that better too.
Question.
Oh, no, you don't even like it better. You just have a question. Go ahead.
What is that doing the constant? I've never seen the constant before.
That means you didn't read chapter 17. No, I'm just kidding. Constant is just like a variable. It's a named location in memory that holds a value. The difference between a constant and a variable is that a variable, I can change its value while the code's running. Constant, its value is set. So if I try to change what a quote is, no can do. So it's like it's a named location in memory. I can put something there, but it doesn't change while the program's running. Quote's always going to be quote. I don't have to worry about it being something different later. The question is, why did I do it as 4 quotes instead of the 1 quote? And the answer is, I've got to get this to be a quote. Now, if I was trying to make it a capital A, I'd do it like this, string literal. So the quotes on the outside say, hey, this is string literal. I don't want a capital A, I want a quote. I can't just put 1 quote inside the quote because it gets confused. It's got to have 2 inside the quote to get there. So you might think, well, why don't you just go ahead and put char 34 here? And the answer is, a constant gets defined before your code starts running. And char 34 is a function. That's code that executes. And so I can't put executable code in the definition of a constant. A constant has to be a constant value. So the question is, so when I put 4 quotes in a row, it's taking the entire string of what's in the quotes. That's right. And to put a quote inside of a quote terminated string, I've got to put 2 of them. So yeah, I get it. That looks weird. But that's how I say a string quote literal. Okay. So now, have I run this yet? I don't think I have. So I'm going to say link equals get text to that. I should be able to come up here and print link, and I've got just the URL that I'm after. That's fabulous. Next piece that I need then is like the time. Let's go take a look and see how I get to the time. Let me go ahead and make a couple of variables. In fact, I'll make the next variables that I need. So I'm going to need a date and a time. I don't just want to call it date because date is a valid data type, so I'll call it the date as a string, dim the time as a string, and then I will dim title as a string. Okay, so I've just declared some variables that are going to hold the values that I'm pulling off that page. Let's go take a look at our source again. So now I used move back to get me right to here, and then I used get text, which actually gets the text up to the next character, and it advances the current position indicator to right after whatever character I was to find what I was getting the string for. So my current position indicator is now right here. The position is now right here. So from here, I want to come down here and get this date and time. Any thoughts on how I should do it? Yeah?
Sorry, just a question on the other thing. So when you put those 4 quotes in, what is that actually telling the program to do?
So the question is, when I put these 4 quotes in, what's it telling the program to do? And the answer is, that is how I make a string literal of just a single quote. These 2 quotes on the outside are just the quotes I have to put around any string literal.
So the get text is just telling it from where it is, get all of the text up into the quotation mark.
So get text is saying, bring back the text out of the source from wherever the current position indicator is until the next occurrence of whatever string I've put here. And so before I executed that line, my current position indicator was sitting right here. It's right here. And I'm saying, get the text from there up until the next quote. And so it brings in all of this. And I'm saying, assign that to the link variable. And so when I print link, that's why it printed out that URL.
So I get why you'd have 3 quotes, because you have a quote and then the actual quote, and then the end quote. So why is there 4?
So if we just put 1 quote on the inside of this, it says, aha, here's the beginning of the quote. Aha, here's the end of the quote. And it gets to this one and goes, I don't know what we're talking about. So we've got to do something to tell it inside that quote. And it looks really, I'm not even going to apologize for it. That's just the way it is. It's quote, 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 quote. That's how you say quote. All right. Yeah?
So sorry, why are you even using quotes in order to reference the obviously it's in I'm actually
Oh. So you're actually, okay, so the question is, why am I using the quote to identify the end of the URL? So I'm looking at this as just a collection of characters. I can't tell VBA to say, just get the URL. I got to tell it something, find some particular character, and know when the URL is done. So there are no quotes inside this URL, so when I start here, I want to just bring up all the text until I find this. You know, I could put this. I could say bring all the text until I found this string of characters, and it would do exactly the same thing. So whatever I put here inside the parentheses of the get text says, starting from the current position, just start bringing in characters until I find where this next collection, until I bump into this collection of characters. In this case, the collection of characters is just a single double quote. All right, so now that puts my current position indicator right here. It's after the URL. I'm going after the time, the date and the time. Thursday, February 25th at 7 o'clock p.m. How am I going to get it? What should I do? What should I look for? Any thoughts? Take a look at it. What do you see? So one thing I could do is look for 2 line breaks one right after another. It turns out that in most of the time when I'm working with Windows file, the line break is 2 characters, right? It's character 13 followed by character number 10. We talked about this in class? Anyway, it's a 2-character sequence. This is Unix. It's probably just character 10. It's a non-printable character. That would probably do it. It's probably going to be 3 line breaks. So I've got the line break here, and then I've got one here, and one here, and one here. This is actually 2 line breaks itself. I don't want to find this one. Now, I'd have to be sure that there are no spaces here. It doesn't look like there's any spaces, so that would probably work. So that's a candidate. Any other suggestions? In the back. Ah, so we could look for this. Item prop start date, and then do what? I mean, I'm closer. And then what? And then count a certain number of characters, okay.
There are only 7 values for the day, so you can just search for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay, so yeah, just look for that. That would be pretty good, except I can imagine, let's see, I'm up here. I can imagine a day showing up right in here. That could be problematic. Yep.
So right after content in the blue, that's the same information.
Aha! What you're saying is, look, we don't know why they did it, but look what they did here. Right here in this tag, they put a content tag, and they've put, it's in a specified format, but they've put year, month, day, a T to specify time, and then 1900. 1900. What's 1900? That's 7 p.m. Yeah, and it's in the 24-hour clock. So you're right. The data that I have right here in this content parameter is really going to be a lot nicer to get to. Now, I'm a little worried about just searching for the word content because there might be another tag that shows up in here somewhere that has a content for something else. But item prop start date content, I feel pretty good about that. That's not going to happen. That's not going to show up before this one. So I like it. So let's do that. So I've got the link. And now I'm going to say a.move to. Item prop start date content. I'm going to double up all of my quotes that are inside the quotes. Would that I didn't have to do that, but that's the way it is. Even this last one. If I leave the line and it's not red, I feel pretty good about myself. That should put me, let me see, I know you're still working on that one. So that should put me right here, right after that quote, ready to bring in the date. This is great news, folks. Look, they've got a T that they use to delimit between the date and the time. So I should be able to pull in just the time. Now remember, oh wait, yeah, so I'm sitting there ready to get the time. So I should be able to come here and say it's the date. The date equals a.getText right up to a capital T. That should bring me everything from the quote where I ended my last move to up to where this T is. But move to also advances the current position indicator, so it's going to go right after the T. So I'm now right in the right place to pull in the next value. And it looks like I'm looking at a different one because this one's on Wednesday, March 2nd, but the structure is the same. Maybe I should go find the one before this. So I'll be right after this ready to bring in the time. And to bring in the time, I should bring everything in up to the hyphen. What's that hyphen 7? What's the hyphen 7 o'clock mean? Yeah, I don't think that's giving me an alternate way to look at it. I think it's saying this is going until 7 o'clock a.m. I don't really care about that. I don't think that's really a 12-hour class, like the midnight of classes, whatever this thing is. Come, 1 can of tomatoes, bring a can of tomatoes, and we'll do it all night long. I don't know what that is, but so it's 3 ways of tomatoes. It takes a while to do it. You got to simmer. Okay, so I'm going to ignore the 7 o'clock and I'm going to pull in the 1900. So, but the point is that this get text actually advances the current position indicator, so I'm ready to bring in the time, just everything up to the hyphen. I'm going to go ahead and run those 2 lines, and I should have a date and a time. Duh! No good. So I got in a lot more than I expected to. So it means I must not have done my move to before I got there. That's okay. I'll come back to position, take me to the very top. I will run to here and look at the date and time. Yeah, so I just forgot to actually do the move to before that. So we're still looking pretty good. We should have the date, the time, the link. And we've got all that information now sitting in those variables, ready to go. Only one more to go. And that's the title. Okay, how are we doing, folks? I get that this is a lot of look in there. You got to figure it out. And if you've never looked at HTML source before, this has got to be mind-numbing. But it's very structured. Look for the pattern. See, what it takes, what's unique, what you can search for, and you can do it. All right, what's next? The title. Oh, look at this. H4. Oh, that's what we looked for before, isn't it? We've already looked for this. Oh, great. We know how to do this one. We just got to move back to it. And so we've got this move to right here. I'm just going to copy this move to. That's going to take us right where we want to be. Now, this move to, we're relying on the return value. We're treating it like a function. We've got to put parentheses around the argument list. Now we're not. We're just saying move to it, and so no parentheses. That's going to move us right back to that same location that we moved to kind of to identify the block. We're okay with that? That little move? Yep.
Would it be moved back to?
Would it be moved back to? And the answer is no, because we're still ahead of it. So what we did was we moved, we used this block to, we used this string to identify the 12 blocks. We found this, and then we moved back to pick up the URL. We moved way back up here to somewhere in here. Here, we moved back up to here. And now we're moving forward from here, moving forward, we're moving forward. The last piece of data we got was here. We still have to move forward to get to this. All right, well, from there, we just want everything. That'll put our current position indicator right here. And now we just want everything from there up until the /h4. So title equals get text. A.getText. Everything to the H4. So I'll run those two lines. Now let's take a look at title. Title's not quite what we want. What do I have with title? Notice that my current position, my insertion point is here. What do I have in title that I probably don't want with title? I got a bunch of spaces before it, but I also have some spaces above it, right? I mean, looking at this, I started right exactly here and took everything down to here. So I got those two end-of-line sequences, at least two. Looks like just two. There's some wrapping here because my browser's kind of small. Boop. I'm not sure if this is the right one or not, but that's what I've got. Everything from here, including this line return character, down to here. So I've got a line return character there, line return character there, and a bunch of spaces. So should I just use the trim function to get rid of that stuff, that leading and trailing space? That would work well if they were spaces. Only some of them are spaces. Some of them are character number 10. Non-printable line return character. Fortunately, there's a function. There's a method for that. It's built into the agent class. It is called it's called something. I forgot what it's called. It's called remove white space. So not just spaces, but any non-printable space, any non-printable characters. So what I do is I say what I want it to remove from, title. And now I'll print that. When was the last time I saved it? I don't remember. Not nearly long enough ago. All right, is someone followed along? Thank you, Brighton, for emailing that to me. Where are we now? I forgot what we were doing. I'm saving, file save. And we were, I guess let's run this and see what we got. Oh, we were working on the title. So let's take this, remove white space out, and run it up to here. Here comes the browser. Browsing happy. All right, so now we should be able to take a look at a.remove white space. Okay, so what remove white space does is it says, it splits the string up into two different kinds of collections of characters, printable characters and non-printable characters. So it looks at this eat and it says, those are 3 printable characters in a row. And if I just look at title by itself, it then says all these spaces before eat and the carriage return character that happens up there, that's all non-printable space. It takes all non-printable space and squishes it down into one space. And that does it throughout the whole string. It's not just leading and trailing. If it's inside the string, it does that as well. And so what we'll see is that when I say remove white space, since there's leading and trailing white space, there's still collapsed down to one space at the beginning, one space at the end. How do I get rid of those? Trim. And so now I've got down just to the string that I want. And so by using the remove white space from the agent and trim that's built into VBA, I can collapse that down a little bit more, and I'll just set title equal to that. So after I pulled in title once, I'll say title equals what it used to be, trimmed, and the white space removed. Okay, so at this point, I think I've got all the information I need for one of the cards. I'm really ready to let it run for all those cards. I better give myself a way to see the data coming out. So I'll need another variable that'll let me keep track of where I'm writing out to. So let me just dim R as a long. It will start off at 0, and so I'll just add 1 to it before I start using it. R equals R plus 1. And now I'll just write to the active sheet, whatever that is. I better put the active sheet over here to sheet 3. And I'll just say cells, whatever the R row is, column 1, dot value equals my title. And then in 2, 3, and 4, I'll put the other pieces of data. Title, date, time, and link. So I'm giving R a value. I'm using that to say which row I'm writing to. And I should have written these out. Here they are. Oh, but I haven't trimmed up the title yet. So how did I miss that? Oh, it's because I didn't go high enough. I didn't actually execute this line here. So let me go ahead and get the title trimmed. That should write it a second time. So now we've got it out there the way we want it. That looks great. So now I should be able to run this again. I don't need the debug.print, so I'm going to get rid of that line. And I should just be able to run to the breakpoint at the end of my loop, and that should get the next line. And so if I just keep running this, this should come in one line at a time. And once I've got all 12 off of this page, it should be right here. Oops. I think I just accidentally finished off my program. Yep. So I ran past the end. But the point is I pulled in the date information that I need, and you'll notice that this date is actually stored as an Excel date. This time is stored as an Excel time. I could format this column to be a different time format, and it'll show me in a 24-hour or 12-hour clock instead of a 24-hour clock. So and that's just Excel doing that. I put a bunch of characters and it goes, oh, that's a time. And it just said recorded as a time. Okay, questions on this part? Okay, so the next step here is to say, well, I've got everything off the first page. Let's figure out how to make it go for another page. So to do that, we're going to come back to our initial URL. Oh, here it is. So our initial URL says, hey, open the page, but you'll notice that we're opening it to page 1. So we just need to increment the page. So let's set up a variable for that. Dim page as an integer. Let's start page off at 1. Page equals 1. And we will use page, our page variable here, to build that URL. So now, if I come right back up to here and tell it to do this again, I should be in pretty good shape. So let's set up a do loop here. And I'll put a loop, another loop down here at the end. Because I've nested that loop, I'm going to tab all of this in. Truth is, I've just created myself an endless loop. I need some way out. We'll deal with that here in just a second. This do corresponds to this or that loop, and this loop goes to this do. This loop goes to this do. So after we've processed that whole one page, we're saying go up and get the next page. So we need to increment page at the bottom here, so we now go to page 2. Page equals page plus 1. I'm going to put a breakpoint right here so I don't run past that first loop, and I'll run the code to that point. All right, so that should have brought in just my first block again. And I've got this last one duplicated here because I had a blank line on my last one. So I wrote rows 1 through 12, and 13 is left over. I'll just go ahead and erase it. So there's my first 12. Now I've incremented page to be page 2. That should send me back up here. I'm now going to open that URL again, but this time I'll be looking at page 2. We run that one and see that we get the second page. To wait for the page to load. Now it's brought in all the data from the second page. Yep. We do need to tell it when to stop. So we haven't told it when to stop. We've just said keep on going. How can we tell when it's time to stop? Yep. So we've already gotten So we've already gotten the first 12 off of this page, and now we're going to the next page. We've gotten the next page. We've gotten the first one. We've processed the first 2 pages. So how do we know when it's time to stop processing pages? Let's just take a look. I'm going to come back and look at it in Chrome. Let me go to page 4. It's my last page here. I'm going to come back to page 3. And I want to look right around. I kind of want to look right around here and just see how this looks. I'm curious to see how this next button will often change when I get where there's no place to look after that. So I'm going to look at the source of this page and just going to look for this where it says Provo Food Events. I've got my source here. This is my local file. So this is my original first page. Here it is, Provo Food Events. And so if I look up just a little bit more, here's saying page 4. And here it's showing the right arrow. And you see it says next page. My bet is this is going to look different. So that's how it looks on my original page. Let's see how it looks on my last page. What am I seeing here? Provo Food Events. Did I just not search for it correctly? So here's Provo Food Events. Oh, that's the first one. I don't want the first one. I probably want the last one. Oh, here it is. 25 here. So, am I to the searching yet? Bookmark? I don't think so. I got to get lower. No, I'm having a hard time finding it. That was it? This one? Yeah, this must be. Okay, so I look up just above this, I should see what's letting me navigate to the links. I'm not sure I don't see them. See what I'm saying? Doesn't this have a set of navigators here? Yeah, not too far away, we've got these navigators. Oh, I want to be, hold on a second. I want to be on my last one. I want to view the source of this page. Where are those navigators? It's like I'm too far. This looks like I'm into the data. So I'm seeing, it's looking differently in Chrome than it is in HTML. But my guess is, let's just see if it works. My guess is that what I'm seeing here, this next page, this whole thing, that if I can move to this, there's another page to go to. If I can't move to this, there's not another page to go to. I'm not positive of that, but let's give it a shot. So I'm going to finish that loop, and I'm going to check. If a dot move to. This whole thing, double up all my quotes. In fact, if I can move to it, I want to have business as normal. If I can't move to it, so if not a dot move to, then exit do. So I'll run this page. It should get through there, process the page, finish looking at that page, check to see if I can move to it. And if so, if so, nothing happens. But if I can't move to it, then it should drop me out altogether. That's the third page. This should be the fourth page. Should process the fourth page. Is there another one? Hopefully this is going to let us out. It looks like it's still finding it. So what's our data look like? There's 50, I've got 53 of these so far. How many are there? $41. So I've run past the end. So I haven't quite nailed down how to stop this thing. So we'll take a look at that. I'll finish off this video and post it. Okay, so using a.showSource, I have brought up both the source of the page when we're on the last page and the source of the page when we're not on the last page. And so comparing these two, what I can see is that when I'm on the last page of the data, I look right here, this tag around the next page link is has this class here is disabled. And when I look at the source that is not the end, it says JS show next. And so I can use that difference to be able to tell when we're on the last set of data. And so really what I want to say is, hey, if I can move to this, I really want to be done. So I'm going to supplant our existing tag that we're looking for this tag right here. And so if I can move to this, then we know that we're out of data. We'll double up my quotes. And let's go ahead and start this again from the very beginning. So we'll run that. Should bring in the first page. And we've made it to the very end, maybe. Of course, it's not if we can't move to it, it's if we can move to it that we want to advance past that. So let's take this back up and start that again. Pulling the first page, and we can see that we're pulling that page in over here. All right, so we're on the first page. It did not let us out of the loop. We'll run that again. Oops. We'll run this again. Should bring us to the next page. See it going to the next page. So it looks like we're now on page 2. We'll run again. And it looks like we're now on page 3. We still have a way to advance. We'll run that again. Now we no longer have a way to advance here, and we can see that this has now led us out of the loop, and we're done. And so we just needed to find some text that was different on the page from when we had something to advance to and when we didn't have something to advance to. And that allows us to control the exit condition of the loop. So that does it. That's an example of getting to a particular page, iterating across the result set, and pulling in all the data.